Dynasty Warriors Origins released their demo this past weekend, and after spending a couple of hours playing through the battle Shui Gate in the demo, I sort of got a feel for the new direction of Dynasty Warriors Origins, and I'm here to give my thoughts on what I feel about that direction. Now, there's certainly some things that I liked, and there's also things I disliked. Now, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the criticism aspect of it, and because overall my experience with the demo was rather mixed. I started off having quite a bit of fun, but as I played through it a couple more times with different weapons and different starting positions and bringing along the different companions, more issues started to pop out to me that started to detract from my enjoyment of the game itself. And I'm going to go over that in this video, and I want to focus a little bit more on those rather than the good. Now, if you do enjoy the demo, don't let my criticisms take away from your enjoyment of the demo. If you're going to be a day one purchaser or pre-order or whatever, good on you. Enjoy the game, because I do think it has it's certainly, I do think it is a step in the right direction. It's just, for me, I do think it is missing in several key areas. But I'm gonna start off with the good stuff, the stuff that I really like. So the music and visuals and scale, they are all fantastic. I love that they're bringing back older tracks, and the music, and even just like the sound design itself, running around on the battlefield, hearing all of the cries of the other soldiers. It very much feels like a chaotic battlefield in a sense, and I really do enjoy that, especially with like the scale and everything, seeing everybody charge alongside you and assault the gates. So that is all very good. Dubbing is back. It is still a little on the campy side. Their voices are a little silly, but it's just good in general to be able to have English voices, especially in the middle of battle, because battles are very chaotic, and needing to read important messages while you're trying to also fight and complete objectives, it would be very difficult. So being able to hear that as they're happening is a big plus. The combat itself, I think, is incredibly strong. The weapon depth, the special arts, and the unit tactics, all these new combat systems are probably going to make Origins the best combat it has ever been in the series. This also goes with like combat flow with the perfect dodges and parries. Your character feels very fluid and mobile, and with every weapon having their own sort of like unique mechanic to them, so that no weapon feels the same. There's only going to be like 10, 11 weapons, I think. 9 to 11 weapons. I forgot what the actual number was, but there's very limited weapons that you'll have access to in the full game. But from the 4 weapons available to you in the demo, they all play very differently. So that is very nice to see. And then with like these special arts that you'll have access to, there's a long list of special arts that can further differentiate your character. And then the unit tactics are really cool. It allows you to, sort of do like a infantry charge or a surround or a arrow volley and do significant damage to an enemy formation. I think that's a good addition as well, that just provides more engagement in the battle. Duels are back, and they are amazing. The best duel feature that they've had in the franchise, which isn't a lot. I think duels were in like 2 games, but the duels are that very like classic, your allies and the enemies surround you and the dueling officer, and you're in like this little makeshift arena on the battlefield, and you just duke it out for a minute to try and come on top. That's really cool. I really enjoyed that. I was able to duel Huashuang and Li Jue in the demo and completely clap them, but it was a lot of fun. Lu Bu, do not pursue this man. Lu Bu is by far the best he's ever been in the franchise. He is an absolute menace. Even on a normal mode, he butchered me multiple times. It took me forever to defeat him. And speaking of defeating Lu Bu, another feature that is really cool is the battle replay feature. So if you do die in battle, there are checkpoints, so you can sort of go back a couple of minutes before you died and restart the battle and redo the battle. There's different checkpoints throughout the battle so that when you die at Lu Bu, you can restart a checkpoint right before Lu Bu appears and try again. So that's really cool. It saves you a lot of time if you make a mistake. That's a very good feature to have. But Lu Bu is a very fun fight. He feels like a Dark Souls boss. So that's going to be really cool. I kind of hope that they make other notable officers that you encounter in the story also as threatening. And then the last good point that I have of the demo is that I definitely see the mainstream appeal. They are definitely going to reach a wider audience with this release, and I don't have any doubt that Origins is going to be the best-selling Dynasty Warriors game. I 100% see it happening. I think it plays a lot more like an action game than a Musou game, and that's going to have a lot of mainstream appeal. I think it's going to be very popular in the variety streamer space. I think a lot of streamers are going to be picking this game up, playing it for release week and stuff. But whether or not the franchise is going to gain new fans or people are going to be playing this game a month after launch, I'm not so sure. But I do see that the initial sales, I do think it's going to be very strong. That being said, quite a few good points that I did enjoy initially, but I want to get on to sort of the criticism part of my experience with the demo and go over some of what I would dub the bad. So to start off with, the awful font for like the story aspects when they do like the cutscenes and you're getting like the briefings, the font is atrocious. Like you can't read that. It looks so goddamn blurry, and the screen is, you know, less than a foot away from my face, almost. So the font is terrible. There's a lot of visual overload with the UI and the chaotic battles. When you first get in there, you are getting so much thrown at you that it's very overwhelming and overstimulating. You know, you have your, like, you're looking for your health bar, you're immediately thrown into a group of soldiers, you have, you know, your combo wheel on one side, you have your tactics wheel on the other side, you have your little mini map on screen, you have notifications popping up at you left and right. It is so overwhelming that, I mean, once you get used to it, it becomes a little bit easier, but a lot of times you'll just probably block that shit out. So that's one of the bad aspects of like its UI. As far as like gameplay itself, there's a lot of allied babysitting. Now, allied babysitting is where you basically have to hover around your allies so that they don't die. My first run of Sea Shuigate, I went to go try and save Sun Jian because he was about to die. As soon as I got to Sun Jian, he was on like minimal health. He was like about ready to get two-shot. I had to fight off the officers around him to try and save him. Before I could even make it back to Yuan Shao died. He's the commander. That was a game over. So my first run of the demo ended in like 5 minutes. So then every playthrough afterwards, I find myself running to officer points, sniping the officers, and then moving on to the next officer to save my allies. You know, go up with Yuan Shao, move over to Sun Jian, rush all the way over to Liu Bei, rush over to take out like another middle group, because the morale drop was so severe that your allies were just dropping like flies as you left them alone for 30 seconds and they were half dead. They were about ready to die. And I don't really like that, because if I have to spend the entire game running from point to point to point to point, killing enemy officers and only enemy officers just so that my allies would survive and I avoid that morale hit, that's not very fun for me, and it's not an organic flow of the battlefield when I'm, you know, racing back and forth from point to point to point, you know, all over the map just to keep everybody alive. What I want, if I start on Sun Jian's side, I want to clear out the stuff with Sun Jian, advance with him, and as I'm advancing with Sun Jian, my allies on the far right over where Liu Bei is, he's advancing steadily with me as well. So it kind of gives that feeling that, you know, the force is advancing together. They're making the comeback together, rather than anybody who is not on my screen at that moment is just getting decimated. And then with that allied babysitting, the peons are, they're just white noise. You don't even notice them at a lot of the times, when, especially when you're focused in on the officers. The enemy peons are almost indistinguishable from your allies. You sort of just hone in on the enemy officer, kill whatever peons get caught up in your wide range attacks, and then once the officer is dead, you move on. They're not really a threat at all. I mean, they're kind of a threat if you were to suicide charge into the high morale area in the end stage, but by the time you get to the end of, or where Sishui Gate is with that big chunk of enemy soldiers, you know, you have your allies with you, they're all charging in, and it's just so easy to ignore the peons. They're just white noise to me. And again, the enemy officer sniping, it's not a game loop that I am personally going to enjoy. I don't want to just focus on enemy officers to try and complete objectives as fast as possible in order to not, you know, lose morale. I want to play the battle organically and advance organically. And I also had some issues with the camera. Because there's so many units on screen at once, you kind of have to lock on to enemy officers in order to even see them. And when you lock onto an enemy officer, if you get remotely close to a wall, your camera is just going batshit insane. And then if you try and like adjust your viewpoint with the right analog stick, you'll sometimes swap over to a different enemy and you're just locking on between two enemies when you're just trying to orientate yourself, and it's very unintuitive to me. So the camera work is a little rough and it's very noticeable. To address the major point is the MC. Everything about the MC, from being this silent protagonist who just sort of stares blankly whenever other characters are talking to him, to their design, to the fact that you have to play as them and only them. I just don't like it. It's not what I play Dynasty Warriors for. I think the characters is one of the strongest points of Dynasty Warriors, and to remove that entirely is, you know, really just cutting out a significant portion of the game's identity. And the no playable characters is also a design decision that I just don't agree with, and I will never agree with that. Having 0 playable characters is just ridiculous. Now, there are 9 quote unquote playable characters available to you. That playableness being reduced to a 1 minute, you know, a 1-minute playtime at the very end of the fucking stage. I don't count that as playable. You're on a time limit of how long you could play as that character, and you have to build up their, you know, switch mechanic in order to even do it to begin with. And I just don't like it. I will never like it, and I will never agree with that decision. And it is most likely going to be the singular factor as to why I just don't get the game on release. And I won't get the game at full price. So the $70 price tag is also a huge negative for me, especially with the massive reduction in the playable cast, or getting rid of the playable cast altogether, and then the massive reduction in unique officers that show up. For me personally, despite the fun gameplay aspect of it and the fun or the deeper combat, getting rid of half of what I enjoy about Dynasty Warriors does not justify a full price game. I'll get it for half because you took out half of what I enjoy, so I'll give you half for it, but not full price, not at $70, not a month before Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, why would I get Dynasty Warriors Origins when I can get Wilds like 3 weeks later? So that is my overall thoughts on the demo for Origins. I do think it's going to be a success. I do think it has the framework to be a great reinvention of the series. I'm just kind of disappointed that I'm going to have to wait 10 years in order to, you know, get what I want out of Dynasty Warriors with, you know, an improved Origins experience. I want to play as Shahadun from the start. I want to play as Sun Jian. I want to play as Sun Ce. I want to play as Zhou. I want to play, you know, I want to see Yue Ying come back, you know? I want to see the characters that were cut and that aren't even in this game anymore. I want to see them come back. I want to see them playable. Like, I want to play as them. You know, that's a large part of what I enjoy about Dynasty Warriors, is playing as each individual character, getting their final weapons, getting, you know, the max amount of kills, getting their achievements, right? You know, I don't want to reduce characters to a weapon identity, which is something I very much disliked from 7 and 8, where characters just became weapons, interchangeable with weapons. I don't want that. You know, let me play as the heroes of this Three Kingdoms era. But that's my thoughts on the demo and the direction of Origins so far. Again, very mixed. I'll pick it up on a sale, but it's certainly not going to be a day one purchase, and certainly not full price. Again, if you enjoy Origins and you had a blast with the demo and the direction it's going, great. Happy for you. Don't let, you know, my own criticisms influence or impact your own enjoyment of, you know, whatever it is you enjoy. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you know when these videos go live. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.